Hello and welcome back to the castle where we are expanding things again. We're actually finishing the roof first. First things first, we have a few towers that we didn't finish the roofing on. So we started back here on this back tower. We're just doing the same roofing scheme that we've used on several other towers. This tower is a 15, I believe. It's similar size to the one behind it there on the right. So it was relatively simple, we just copied it. It was a terrible lightning storm when we were doing this as well. Now this tower is bigger. I think it's at 17, it might be a 19. So it took a little bit more work, a little bit more playing around with it. You just eventually you develop a feel for what you need to do next for these sloped roofs or these conical roofs that we're using on all of these towers. And we'll go back eventually and add in all of the windows and other accoutrements. We're just finishing up this last tower. We move the camera around because we're next going to finish crenellating that a little bit, and then we're moving to this half tower. And this tower actually was a little bit more difficult to handle because you're so used to working in round, and this tower wasn't round. This tower was extremely well, it's a half circle. Well, it's not even a half circle. It's more of like a third-ish circle because the entryways aren't even correct. You see me dashing around, and I did finally sort it out. It just took a lot of playing. And then I dash over to create a landing area for this secondary entrance. This is sort of a side entrance into our castle. I'm not going to finish it because I'm not really sure exactly what I want to do. Now here we are putting up our roof on this last tower. This is the last tower that really needs a roof, right here at the front of the castle. It's identical to its sister tower on the opposite side, so it's a very quick build. And then I'm overbuilding the landing for the main gate, and this is going to be a heavily used entrance, so I wanted it to sort of mirror the main entrance you see going into the main castle. But I didn't want it to be quite as tall. I didn't want it to have quite the same look. I wanted the entryway to be a little bit shorter, and I wanted the whole structure to be a little bit shorter, just so that there was a delineation between entering into the castle versus entering through this particular area. You see me arching the entryway, and it is shorter by 1 block. Now the big tower, the last tower, and people have pointed out that this tower does look kind of monolithic. We are going to solve that here. This tower was interesting to try to build a roof on. It is a 27, I think, tower. It is extremely large, and it created a little bit of a difficulty in that you kind of have to have a little bit of forethought about how the tower is going to reach up. It's hard to tell, but I actually think about the placement of the individual stairs. So when you have a single stair block, I try to alternate it so that it doesn't look like it's a simple walkway. I move stairs around in order to make it feel more like this conical roof structure I'm looking for. We're just continuing this climb up. I was starting to become concerned about top of world problems, but we did end up getting this done without hitting top of world. See, we're finally coming up to the point where it's starting to look like the other towers that we have. We're starting to get this squared structure on the top. And whenever I hit the squared structure, I'm so happy because I know I'm coming to the end of the roof. And I built my little tower there, and then I decided I wanted a perch. I wanted a place where somebody could come and stand and look out over their kingdom. So I created that little place there, and then I decided I needed something better for the top. So I decided to go with a beacon. Because what could look better than a beacon? And then I replaced placed a bunch of glowstone and some emerald blocks, just give it a little bit added richness. Now we've got all of our towers topped off. Now I'm going back to add a little bit of definition and coloration to this big tower. Now if you look closely at the splash screens that start any of these episodes, you'll see a big black tower in those splash screens. I've gone through big black towers many times, dealing with trying to make them look clean, and I'm trying something different here. I'm adding some stone brick steps to really make the windows punch, so you can see the windows. It's really obvious what's there, and it also removes some of the monolithic feel of this big tower. Now I'm just kind of creating the entryway for this lookout that we're going to have up here. I'm just kind of dashing around, making some finishing touches inside. And here's the look straight down to the tower. Now I cleared out the rest of the tower off camera because, well, it was just me punching blocks. Now we're going back in and we're putting in all of the marble flooring. And again, this marble flooring isn't going to stay like this forever. We are going to go back and we're going to change up flooring. We're going to add different features here and there. You'll actually see that come to fruition in this main hall, this main dark area that we're working in now, here in a little bit. I went with redwood for the roof slash floor in this area. We use mahogany elsewhere, but I felt redwood was just a little bit different enough to use in this main tower. Now I hadn't really planned out the steps yet. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. Instead I took time to lay in for more windows. You see me dashing around and putting in the ceiling slash floor. Again, haven't really decided on the steps quite yet. I do quickly come to a conclusion though about where I'm going to put things, but in the meantime I decided I was going to gild the roof. So I'm using the micro blocks, the panels, and I'm putting gold panels across the roof to just give it that added touch of wow, this is going to be where the king holds his audience. I knocked out that area 1 to try to get that zombie to burn to death, and 2, I decided I also wanted more light in here. So now you think the king, he's gonna want to look as rich as possible, so the gilded roof really sets that off. And I decided that I was gonna put the stairs over here. Now I'm using nether brick stairs just to get an idea of what I wanted to do, because I wanted to make a compound stair. So now we're going back in and we are laying in the correct stair, and this is using the micro blocks. I'm using ruby and emerald, or sapphire, or whatever color that is, green micro blocks to create the stairs. It does give a kind of a Christmas look, which I'm not sure I'm in love with yet. You see I actually screwed up that setup. I decided to go with 3 wide, and I realized I couldn't do that with the way I had built things. I want 3 wide because it just gives that added feel. You think of a king walking down here, or his queen walking down here, or the princess. You want this punch of here comes the royalty. Again, I'm not 100% in love with these steps, but they seem to work in the end. Laying in a wall to kind of seal off that area, and then you see me here going back and gilding the rest of the roof so that we can get an idea of what it all looks like. And behind all that brick is where some guards might hang out to come out and protect the king and queen. Using the gold panels, I'm also creating a little bit of gilding on the various entryways, the various sides of the stairs. Now, it does look kind of garish and a little bit over the top, but we are talking about a king, and kings often are over the top in their gilding and their love of gold and rubies and emeralds and diamonds. So we'll put diamond in here. And now I'm going in, I'm just putting in some more redwood for floor and ceiling. My camera's tripping over blocks right now. Now here I decided I needed to take a break from building that and build where the king's throne is going to be. Now purple wool as an entryway makes sense to me. Purple is the color of royalty. In fact, back in medieval times and Roman times, wearing purple when you're not allowed to was a death sentence. In the back I used purple and yellow stained glass to create a window, some diamond paneling, along with some sapphire to create a throne, a rise to the throne, and then some glowstone and some gold to really create a punch, a beautiful look of a very rich king. To afford a castle this big, you'd have to be rich. Just finishing that up. Now we're back with our outside of the tower, and we're putting in more windows and laying down the half micro blocks. You're starting to see how this is really breaking up the line of this big black tower, creating a depth to the window area. You'll see as I add in more micro blocks that it also creates, it adds a lot to the tower when I use those stone micro blocks to climb up the side. We do 2 circuits of micro blocking because it's a lot of work and it's a lot of having to be very careful. You make a lot of mistakes with the micro blocks. You can get a sort of a feel of what we're going for as we pan around to the front. Here we go again on our second circuit. So I'm rapidly trying to lay in my micro blocks. You see how it's starting to take on a depth and a feel of not a big black monolith, which is really what we're going for. Now we're going to do the inverse later on to these other towers, where we're going to use basalt to get the same sort of look. It'll just be the inverse coloration. And I was trying different techniques, whether going straight down or alternating between different areas was faster. You know, it really didn't make much difference one way or the other. It was still a long, tedious task to put all of these micro blocks in. Now I've come back out to the front of the castle to finish up the entryway. And it looks almost identical to the one behind, just small modifications, a little bit shorter. Well, that's actually the only modification I can think of right now. It's a little bit shorter. I did mess up the roof, and I did go back and correct it after the camera had finished, so that it does reflect exactly what is in the roof of the other building. You see me trying to figure out what I'm going to do about the bridge here. And I went with machine frame. I originally thought about using iron and wood, but I went with machine frame instead because once I lay down iron, it'll look very nice. So here we go on our fly through our castle. We're actually going to fall through a couple blocks here. My camera waggles about a little bit, but you see as we rise up here, just how much difference the micro blocks and the stairs on the windows have created on that big black tower. It now looks much better than it did originally. This is a different style than I have done before. Again, if you look at the splash screen, you'll notice I did horizontal lining before. I went with vertical lining here just to try to see the difference, and I really do like the way the stone steps call out the windows. As we fly into our overlook, we still have to figure out what exactly we're going to do with this overlook. We look down, fly through a block, and look down. We have to add in all of our floors, and really to see what all we're going to put on all those floors. As we pan down through the hole I knocked in the floor specifically for the camera, and sink into the floor, we can see where the gold ends. And really we're up in the king's area where his family's going to live. They don't need to be as garish. But down here we see the throne, diamond and sapphire and gold. And the purple walkway. If you wear purple and you're not the king, you're going to die.